Chosen one. It only happens once and may put you at risk. Serious matter. The rain had been falling for 17 days without pause. Not the dramatic movie-style storm, but the quiet, patient kind of rain that soaks everything until the world forgets what dry feels like. Adil sat on the edge of his narrow bed in the tiny room above his uncle's hardware shop in Orangi town. The single bulb flickered every time a truck passed on the wet road below. He was 26, worked 12-hour shifts repairing inverters, and had never once in his life felt special. Until 3 nights ago. It started with the dream. Not the normal scattered nonsense dreams people have. This one was surgical, sharp, like someone had opened a file inside his skull and started reading aloud. A voice, not male, not female, not even particularly human, said exactly 7 words. "You are the 13th. It only happens once." Then it showed him things. Not visions, not pictures, more like memories that didn't belong to him. A desert city burning under 2 suns. A child holding a black feather that bled silver light. A woman with no face carving the same 7 words into the inside of her own arm. And finally, himself, older, scarred, standing on the roof of a building that no longer existed in Karachi, holding something small and glowing that made the sky flinch. When he woke up, his left palm was burning. Not metaphorically, literally. A perfect circle, deep crimson, had appeared in the center of his hand. No blister, no wound, just the mark, warm as fresh blood, and it wouldn't fade no matter how much he scrubbed. He hid it, of course he did. But the next night the voice came again. Same 7 words, same impossible memories. And this time when he woke, the circle on his palm was deeper, darker, almost pulsing. On the 4th night, he didn't sleep at all. He sat with his back against the wall, flashlight aimed at the mark, waiting. At 3:17 a.m., the bulb flickered once hard and died. The room didn't go dark. The circle on his hand lit up like a dying ember, throwing bloody light across the peeling walls. And the voice spoke without dream, without sleep, directly into the air between his ears. "You are allowed to refuse. Most do. But if you accept, know this. It only happens once. There is no second chance. There is no going back. And many who carry the mark do not survive the first year." Adil laughed. A short, scared, ugly sound. "Survive what?" he whispered. The voice answered without hesitation. "Being seen." He didn't understand then. He understands now. Because in the last 11 days, a man in a gray kurta followed him for 6 blocks, always staying exactly 23 steps behind. When he turned suddenly, the man was gone, but his shoes were still walking, empty, for 3 more steps before they collapsed. Every mirror in the house cracked at exactly 3:17 a.m. Every single one. Even the tiny one in his mother's old compact that hadn't been touched in 8 years. Birds stopped flying over the shop. Not one, not ever. As if an invisible dome existed above the building. His phone started receiving calls from numbers that didn't exist. When he answered, he heard only breathing and then his own voice saying very calmly, "Don't open the door tonight." And tonight, someone scratched the same 7 words into the metal shutter of the shop, deep, with something that left sparks. He knows now what being seen means. It means the things that have been watching the world from the places between moments have finally noticed someone noticed them back. It means the mark is not a gift, it is a summons, a wanted poster burned into skin. And the worst part? He feels it growing. Not just the circle, something underneath it, something trying to push through from the other side of his palm like a second heart. He sits now in the dark shop, the shutter half down, the rain still falling, the mark glowing softly like a warning light on a dying machine. He has 2 choices: refuse, and maybe, Maybe the mark fades. Maybe the watchers lose interest. Maybe he gets to go back to inverters and wet shoes and ordinary tiredness. Or accept and become whatever it is they need the 13th one to become. He looks at his hand. The circle is no longer just red. Thin silver veins have started crawling outward like frost on glass. He whispers to the empty shop, voice shaking, "I don't want to die." The voice answers from everywhere and nowhere at once. Then refuse. Adil closes his eyes. A long silence. Then, very quietly, he says, "Show me the rest." The mark flares once, bright enough to burn the shape of his hand into the wall behind him. And for the first time in 17 days, the rain stops. Completely. The silence is worse than the sound ever was. Somewhere far above Karachi, something very old opens its eyes and smiles. Because the 13th has finally answered. And it only happens once. The rain had stopped, but the silence that followed was heavier than any downpour. Adil stood on the roof of his uncle's hardware shop, the mark on his palm now a living thing, pulsing with silver veins that traced patterns like ancient rivers on a forgotten map. The city of Karachi stretched out below him, a chaotic sprawl of lights and shadows, oblivious to the shift that had just occurred. The air smelled of wet concrete and distant smoke from roadside kebab stalls, but to Adil, it carried something else. A faint, metallic tang, like ozone after lightning. He had said the words, "Show me the rest," and the world had answered. Not with thunder or spectacle, but with a flood of knowledge that poured into his mind like water through a cracked dam. Memories that weren't his, histories of 12 others who had borne the mark before him. The chosen ones, as the voice called them. Not heroes, not saviors, just witnesses. People pulled from ordinary lives to stand at the edge of reality and peer into the voids between. The first was a shepherd in ancient Sumer, marked while tending flocks under a blood moon. He saw the watchers, formless entities that fed on human inattention, slipping through cracks in perception to influence wars and famines. He refused the call and lived out his days in madness, babbling about eyes in the sand. The second, a Roman scribe, accepted. He documented the watchers' whispers in hidden scrolls, but they found him. His body was discovered in the forum, skin turned inside out, as if something had tried to wear him like a glove. On and on the stories went, through medieval alchemists, Renaissance painters, Victorian explorers, and a World War II codebreaker who used the mark to decipher impossible enigmas, only to vanish in a Berlin bunker, leaving behind a room full of mirrors that reflected nothing. Adil was the 13th, the last in this cycle, the voice explained. Cycles repeated every millennium or so, when the barriers thinned and the watchers grew bold. This time, it was different. The world had changed. Technology, crowds, constant surveillance. The watchers were adapting, hiding in data streams, in viral memes, in the algorithms that decided what people saw and believed. Your role, the voice said, now a constant companion in his head, is to balance the scale, to see them fully, and in seeing, force them back into the between places. But they will fight, they always do. Adil descended the stairs, his footsteps echoing unnaturally loud in the empty shop. His uncle was away visiting family in Lahore, leaving him alone with the tools and wires that once defined his life. He flicked on a light, but the bulb hummed with a low frequency that made his teeth ache. The mark responded, glowing brighter, illuminating shelves of screws and pliers in eerie crimson. That first night after acceptance was a trial by fire, literally and figuratively. He tried to sleep, but the dreams came harder now, not borrowed memories, but instructions. The mark was a key, unlocking abilities he didn't want. He could see echoes, faint auras around people and objects where watchers had lingered. A customer the next morning buying batteries had a shadow that didn't match his movements. It lingered a second too long, whispering doubts into the man's ear. Adil watched as the customer left, suddenly arguing with his wife over the phone about nothing. By evening, the followers returned. Not just the man in gray, 3 of them now. A woman with eyes like polished obsidian, a child who hummed tunes that made clocks stop, and an old beggar whose crutches left no prints in the mud. They circled the shop, never entering, but their presence pressed against the walls like a gathering storm. Adil barricaded the door with heavy toolboxes, but it didn't help. At midnight, the scratching started, not on metal this time, but on glass. The cracked mirrors in the house reassembled themselves, shards floating back into frames, reflecting not his room, but other places. A desert under 2 suns, a city of glass spires crumbling into void. He confronted the voice. "What do they want? Why me?" "You were chosen because you are unremarkable," it replied, almost kindly. "The Watchers thrive on the overlooked. You repair things that break quietly. You notice the small failures. That makes you dangerous to them." Dangerous. The word tasted like ash. Adil had never been dangerous. He was the guy who fixed neighbors' fans for free, who sent money to his sister in Hyderabad without complaint, who dreamed of nothing grander than owning his own shop someday. But now, the mark demanded action. It guided him to a hidden compartment in the shop's floor, one he'd never noticed before despite sweeping it daily. Inside, a small obsidian box, etched with symbols that matched the veins on his palm. Opening it released a whisper of cold air, and inside lay a feather, black, bleeding silver light, just like in the dream. "Touch it," the voice urged. He did. The world inverted. Suddenly, Adil wasn't in the shop. He was everywhere, his consciousness splintering across Karachi like shards of glass. He saw through the eyes of a taxi driver swerving through traffic, felt the hunger of a street cat dodging puddles, heard the prayers of an old woman in a mosque, and beneath it all, the Watchers, thousands of them, threaded through the city like veins in a leaf. They manipulated subtly, nudging a politician's speech to incite riots, amplifying a rumor on social media until it became truth, draining the hope from a young student's exam preparations until she gave up. One watcher, larger than the others, a colossal shadow coiled around the clock tower in Sadar, noticed him back. Its attention was like a spotlight of ice. "13th," it hissed, voice like grinding stones. "You should have refused." Adil snapped back to his body, gasping, the feather crumbling to dust in his hand. But the knowledge remained. The Watchers were planning something big, a convergence, using the city's chaos, power outages, floods, political unrest to tear open a rift. If they succeeded, the between places would spill into reality, twisting Karachi into a nightmare where thoughts became monsters and shadows gained teeth. He had to stop it. But how? He was one man, marked and alone. Days blurred into a frantic montage. Adil ventured out, the mark his compass. It warmed near Watcher influence, burned when they drew close. He navigated Karachi's labyrinth, the bustling Empress Market, where vendors hawked fruits laced with subtle poisons of despair. The shadowy alleys of Liari, where gangs were puppets to unseen strings. The gleaming high-rises in Clifton, where executives made deals that echoed Watcher agendas. Along the way, he found allies, echoes of the previous chosen ones, imprinted in objects or places. A faded mural in an abandoned warehouse whispered strategies from the Renaissance painter. Blind them with light. Truth is their poison. A rusted locket in a pawn shop held the codebreaker's codes, algorithms to disrupt digital hauntings. But the risks mounted. The followers grew bolder. The woman with obsidian eyes cornered him in a chai stall, her touch like electric frost. "Join us," she cooed, her voice layering over his thoughts. "Eternal sight without the pain." He escaped by shattering a mirror, using the shards to reflect her own gaze back, banishing her in a scream of unraveling shadow. The child hummed him into a trance on a bus, forcing visions of his own death, impaled on silver veins, body dissolving into between space. He broke free by clutching the mark, channeling its heat to burn the illusion away. Worst was the beggar, who ambushed him near the Qaid's mausoleum, crutches transformed into claws, the old man revealing a maw of infinite teeth. "It only happens once," he growled, echoing the voice's warning. Adil fought back, not with fists, but with seeing. He focused the mark, peeling away layers of deception until the beggar shrank to a whimpering wisp, fleeing into cracks in the marble. Each encounter deepened the mark. The silver veins spread up his arm, weaving into his veins, making him stronger, but more fragile. Sleep brought no rest, only more instructions, more histories. He learned the Watchers weren't evil, not exactly. They were entropy incarnate, the universe's way of balancing creation with decay. But unchecked, they devoured worlds. As the convergence neared, signaled by unnatural events, clocks running backward, birds falling dead from the sky, social media feeds predicting personal tragedies, Adil pieced together the plan. The epicenter was the roof where his dream had shown him standing, the unfinished skyscraper in DHA, symbol of the city's ambitions and failures. He arrived at dusk, the mark blazing like a beacon. The air hummed with Watcher presence, reality fraying at the edges, buildings flickering like bad holograms, people frozen in loops of mundane actions. At the top, the colossal shadow waited, uncoiling like a storm cloud given form. 13th, it boomed. "You see us now, but seeing changes nothing. Join or perish." Adil stood firm, the mark fully alive, silver light flooding the rooftop. "I see you," he said, voice steady, "and in seeing, I name you. Entropy, decay, but not inevitable." He channeled everything, the histories, the allies' whispers, his own unremarkable life of quiet repairs. The mark erupted, not in destruction, but revelation. Light pierced the shadow, forcing it to confront its own reflection, a mirror of the world's resilience, the small acts of kindness that defied decay. The Watcher shrieked, fracturing into harmless wisps that dissolved into the night. The rift sealed with a sigh, reality snapping back. Birds resumed flight, clocks ticked forward. The rain returned, gentle now, washing away the metallic tang. Adil descended, exhausted but alive. The mark faded to a faint scar, the voice silent at last. He returned to the shop, to inverters and ordinary days. But he knew it only happened once. He had survived. And in the quiet moments, he wondered if the 14th cycle would find someone else unremarkable, ready to see. Yet deep down, he felt the pull. The between places weren't gone, just retreated. And sometimes, in mirrors, he caught glimpses of silver veins, waiting.